Oh, hello. Yeah, I finally appeared. You know, I've always got um, just as we are starting up, my kids decide to cause a ruckus, and of course, you know, it's what they do. So while that was going on, I was desperately trying to run backwards and forwards between you and the between you and them. But it's been a good day, so you know, we're all in a good mood. Ah. How are you doing, man? Ah. But hmm? Oh, cool, man. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, let me have a look, all right, because I haven't even seen it yet. So the thing is that I promised to make a nice bit of graphics last week, and I didn't do it. I didn't do it because I'm an idiot, and I forgot all about it. Oh, that's nice. That's a nice bit of graphic. Yeah, that's it's very very European, which is very good. It just looks like the flag isn't exactly, you know, the circle with the stars isn't exactly. Oh, you can write on it as well. Wow. Wow. I'm impressed. Yeah. You have to make it fit. Yeah. Yeah. Now, for anyone who's listening to this right now or in the future, we're still figuring this shit out. You know, we're still figuring this shit out. So, oh yeah. Oh, they can't hear us yet. Uh, oh, what kind of music are you giving them? Oh, so we don't get banned. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I might have that one. Yeah. Okay. Give me that. Yeah.
And there we are. So
Hey.
we are live on Twitch, so everyone can see us now, in theory. And
Great stuff.
I forgot to do this, and now okay. Okay, now it's the way it's supposed to be.
Oh, now is how it's supposed to be. Very nice. You know, it's starting to all come together.
Yeah,
So that's a good thing. Yeah. It's,
like
step by step. Yeah,
step by step.
I know. You could hear us already, but that's because you are the privileged few that are on our Discord,
Yeah,
and which is of course much better than Twitch.
yeah. That's the elite version of the podcast, obviously.
Yeah.
So
You guys get exclusive content. So yeah, that's the nice thing.
oh, you know what?
So,
I forgot to do a small thing. So give me a sec, people.
okay. Is that a euphemism for I didn't go to the toilet on time, or yeah? Yeah. That's not a good idea.
So now we're back on Twitch, and let's start
Yay.
from the title here, right? Our headline topic is Europe's answer to COVID, and that's
Yep.
because some countries, I'm not sure if every country by now, but most of them have started sending their COVID recovery plans, so we can talk a bit about that and the COVID situation around the world.
Yeah.
Then,
Especially for India, because that is exploding right now. It's absolutely amazingly bad.
yes,
I've seen images. I wouldn't like to repeat that. I'll talk about anyway. I mean, the thing is,
we'll talk about it next. Then
yeah.
we have
Sorry.
yeah, this is the way you get the audience, right? You You start, they get engaged, then you say, if you want to know more, stay tuned. So then we're going to talk about the European Defense Fund. And there's something that I think it kind of goes hands in hands with that, which is Russia's aggression towards the EU and its banning of some diplomats, among us, the European Parliament President. So that's quite a big deal.
Hey, he said among us. You know, we have to kill him now.
Yes.
We have to. Yeah.
Only if the cat doesn't do it first. So you have.
You've got your cat stalking you right now, have you?
I mean, yes.
Okay.
He has a collar on, so it looks a bit stupid. But.
Have you got one of those electronic collars, you know, that gives them a shock if they get too close, or?
No, it's one of the old ones, just to make it not leak on the.
Yeah.
Because he's been. Well, we can talk about this later as well. So there's my co-host here decided to call this topic the Jewish problem, which is a great name for it, obviously. And this is it is actually a problem, though, not the Jews.
Yeah.
Because
no, exactly. This time it's the other way around. You know, the Jews have a problem with other people, rather than other people having a problem with the Jews.
This comes from some protests that happened in France this week over a sentence of murder, and people were not pleased with that sentence. And the treatment of Jewish people around Europe in the last few years.
Yeah, in general, that's been very bad, to be honest. Let's be honest with ourselves. So.
Yeah, I don't know if it has been getting worse lately, but for sure it's not the way it's supposed to be. It's far worse than it should be. Exactly. Then we are going to talk about something that is... in itself, it's mostly national news. It's mostly something that Italy cares about. But I think we can talk about it in a bit of a broader scale, because it's about the relationship between Italy and France, and how, even if we are in the EU, and it's like we are talking about two of the biggest countries, we are still not really cooperating the way we should be. So these are the topics we have. And I think we should start with our headline topic. So, Europe's answer to COVID. First of all, as I was saying earlier, and look at these great graphics here. We are seeing the browser with the article on the website. This is like big podcast level here.
That is sexy. That is sexy, man.
Yes.
That's just, you know, that's Italian levels of class. That's right.
So, as this web page shows us, some countries among which there's Belgium, Italy, Austria, Slovenia, but I'm pretty sure some other countries have done so as well, and others will follow shortly, I would imagine. Have started sending their own recovery plans. So Europe is starting to actually, instead of just talking about recovery, we have plans now. And it's not just words, and it's more structured. And mostly Europe, I would say, we're not through the health crisis. There's still a few months to go, probably. Probably we're going to wait till September, I would imagine, to get most of Europe vaccinated. But we are already starting to talk about the next issue, which is going to be the economic crisis.
Yeah, which comes after COVID, of course. You know, I mean, we've been spending a lot of money this past year and a half, trying to get rid of and
This
it's
is going.
this will be like you said. This is as the countries that are the most affected at the moment are economically anyway are Italy, Greece, Portugal, and Spain. It's basically the whole south of the EU is having difficult problems because beforehand the buffers that they built up. No one could have predicted this. No one could have predicted the coronavirus just popping up and giving Italy and Spain, etc., a massive black eye. But of course, because of the previous crisis, there were things that could have been done. But now with the European fund, that's actually going to be really interesting to see what happens there and how much effect that has on an economy. Like Italy's, because Italy has always, and now correct me if I'm wrong, right? Has always been a bureaucratic nightmare when it comes to
which
yes.
when it comes to at least when it comes to the Italian plan, it's not about just how we're going to spend the money, right? It's about the actual, like all the reforms and all the changes and from the bureaucratic side, for example, the digitalization of the infrastructure and everything. So it's a lot broader than one would initially imagine. Like it's honestly, it might sound a bit silly to say, but I think it's kind of true. It's literally everything by now. I don't know if there's anything that isn't touched by it, by this recovery fund, this recovery plan. Like everything in some way is going to be affected.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if it's not the amount of jobs available, it will be the amount of money available to small businesses to loan. Because of course, don't forget that this mirrors the 2008 crisis a lot.
Yes.
In that now that COVID is finally starting to become a thing that we can look at in the past. That the banks will be very, very reticent to sell or to loan money to small businesses, and that's always been a problem in the southern countries, as far as I understand. I mean, I'm no expert in any means, but
I can't talk about the others.
To start a small business is very, very difficult in most countries.
The thing is, in Italy, and this is not. It's not even just about the small business, to be honest. Like, obviously, a smaller business is more affected by it, but if you want to get a loan, an idea isn't enough. You need to have something to cover it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you already own, I don't know, like a house, land, whatever, you can afford to cover a loan. So, if it goes wrong, you can, like the bank can take back what they gave you. So it's safer for them, but it's a lot harder, especially if you are starting with nothing.
Yeah, definitely.
And especially if it's a new idea, let's put it that way. Like if it's if it's not something established,
market, as it were.
Exactly. If it's not an established market, if it's something weird or something that, like, maybe it's simply a bet on your side. Like it might go well, it might go wrong. Banks are not going that easily.
Well, and of course, I mean, they want to be able to see if the the small businesses that have already started up. How far can the banks afford to keep lending the money? And this is why the recovery fund is so incredibly important, because like in the rest of the EU, Italy and Spain, we don't really have big businesses in Europe. We have small and medium businesses,
especially when it comes to Italy.
Especially when it comes to Italy, there's not many big ones around, and the same thing goes for the Netherlands, and Germany has a few. France has a few.
France is a lot more.
top down than
it's a lot more concentrated around Paris mostly, honestly, and it's about having, at least they try to have big business.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, in Italy, it's
Yeah,
literally
the car
just
industry.
small and
Yeah,
medium.
and
Even medium is a lot for us. It's more like
yeah,
small and micro business here.
yeah. Exactly. You know, the same thing goes to the Netherlands. We don't really have any big showstoppers here. You know, the KLM, Air France is maybe one. You know, but that's you know it's already in a special category of itself because it's an airline industry and they're
Yeah.
vital to the national interest for both France and for the Netherlands. Another thing is shipbuilding. You know, all these things are you know
When it
there's
comes
very
to
few big businesses.
when it
Is what I'm
comes to
trying to say.
strategic sectors, for example, the car making, you obviously have something same here, but those are more like exceptions. There's obviously a few big stuff, big things. For example, we have Leonardo here, which does defense, but
Very.
those are like, I don't know, 5% of all the business we have,
Yeah.
if not less. And they, I don't think they employ maybe 20 to 30% of the workforce, probably something along those lines, when it comes to the big businesses. So it's a lot based on small and even micro, because I think small as a definition goes up to 15 or 30 people, I can't remember.
Oh, okay, yeah. And micro is actually one or two people just starting
I think
up.
up to 5, I think, and that's like a lot of places, especially when you think of a bakery or a bar or small restaurants, even like there's plenty
Olive
of
oil
people.
industry, for example, is also a good example because there's lots of really small producers there. You know, well, maybe. I mean, you have more experience at this than me, but you know, an olive oil pressery maybe has 4 or 5 people working there, something like that. You know, max.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The one I
I
go
mean,
to, yeah, it's fairly small. Though, to be honest, the one I go to, it's not like it's not where you would go if you have lots of it. It's more for those that have like it's not for business use.
for you as a I just have to explain this to our listeners. Dante has his own olive oil factory.
No, I don't
And he
have a
makes his own olive
factory.
oil.
I have just the trees. I get
Yeah, you
my
just have the tree.
yeah, I get the olives and send them there, and they make some olive oil out of it.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, that's so Italian. You know, it's just, there's just no words for it. You know, it's like pizza. You know, if you have a pizzeria or if you have an olive grower, you're 100% Italian as far as I'm
I
concerned.
mean, I do have my own wine as well, so
Oh, now I'm jealous. I have my own apples. That's about it. You know, we have a tiny apple tree. My garden is basically an L shape, and the L shape is about 1.5 meters wide. You know, so it's not a very big garden, but we've managed to fit an apple tree in there right at the end, and it gives us a lot of apples. Yeah, that's my wife in the background, by the way. She decided to join the conversation.
Camera on, is there?
No, there's no camera on. No. I'm live on Twitch though. Yeah, Twitch.
Keep twitching there.
I think your wife is disappointed in you because now you're a Twitch streamer, and you know.
Yeah, that's it. You know, it's over between us.
Yeah,
And
I mean, she should do that.
Yeah.
Speaking of bad stuff,
Yeah.
COVID in India is quite. I've seen some images, not too much to be honest, because it's hard. The situation there is really, really awful. Like, for example, I was seeing even in the news, like the one you see on TV, which is usually the more tame stuff, right?
Yeah.
They had people making fires, like with logs, and putting people there to burn people because, that's not something people.
You know, firstly, it's a tradition, you know, to cremate the dead, in some places in India, I should say, because India is such a big subcontinent.
Yeah, they have
So,
plenty of traditions in there.
exactly.
But like for example, it's not like even in
very hard to
Italy
watch.
some people do cremation. Although I think it's mostly people get buried here because that's
Okay.
what usually happens. But there's cremation as well, and as far as I know, it's more expensive if you want to be burned. So that might be
Yeah.
one of the reasons. But there's a big difference between that, like done by a professional in a place made to do that, and the people being burned on the street.
Feel exactly. Oh yeah.
It's
And I've also seen one of the most heartbreaking and heartrending images that I saw was because the hospitals are open. People are now bringing their sick relatives to temples and to places of worship because there's just nowhere else to go. You know, there's no oxygen, there's nothing. And thankfully, through COVAX, the European Union is now stepping up. And there's been a few countries as well, which has basically stepped in and said, you know, we'll give you part of our local supply. And, you know, finally things are starting to move towards India. But again, and this is something that I say with pain in my heart, is that India does not have the best political system to deal with this, let's say, you know. It's very adversarial.
the thing is, it's not. Well, obviously, the political system in there is not great. It has all of its issues, like it's bad. But let's not
By now.
let's not forget who's their leader. So
Yeah, Modi.
yeah, it's not like it's not like they have a great leader there. He's the thing is, we don't hear too much about him because he's in India and we don't care that much. But to give an idea to people that don't know him, he's what you would think of when you think of a far-right leader in Europe or in the US. Mostly.
Yeah.
There are some differences because India is a different place, obviously. But he's that populist and all those things that you
He's
think
basically
of.
the Trump of India. That's how I'd characterize him. There's a lot of division being fostered by his government, and of course that doesn't help when you're talking about COVID. You need a unified response.
Yeah, like
And
look at
we've seen that in America as well. I mean, look at how the difference between how Trump dealt with the pandemic and Biden dealt with the pandemic. You know, it's a much different thing, and the same thing is going on right now in India. You know, it's not. But the
although
situation.
I don't know if like yes, Trump dealt it like was awful at it, but to be honest, Biden kinda got it. It was easy for him because he went in and hey, we have vaccines now, so I guess people just wait a few months because we can open. So it's a lot. I think it was a lot easier for him. Like I'm not saying that he would have done worse than Trump back then, but he had a way easier game, I think, to play compared to what
Yeah,
Trump had
that's
to
true.
do.
Trump, you know, we shouldn't discount that under Trump's administration, stuff was done. You know, the vaccine distribution was set up. You know, maybe not well, but there was work being done on it.
Yes.
You know?
And
the only problem is,
it was Trump that approved the stimulus checks, so it's not like they did nothing at all. Like obviously Trump managed to make it. Even the good stuff that he did, always manages to make it worse than it is. But yeah, I think
as you do. That's you know that's if you're going to be a far right leader, you might as well do it well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, obviously. And to be honest, the thing that Trump is one of the few far-right leaders that is actually stupid. Like most far-right leaders are not stupid. At least, most of them are not that stupid. They know they are saying stupid stuff or simply saying that what people want to hear, but they are usually mostly somewhat competent and not that stupid. Like I think,
or at least managed to keep their base. I mean that was something that Trump did very well, is keep his base on his side. The messaging in Trump's campaigns and in his presidency was really spot on. I mean, he managed to always trigger the libs. It
yeah,
was always,
but the thing is,
that was the only thing he did, really.
the issue is that what Trump did was like he got his his fan base there, like those that are always going to vote for him.
Yeah.
But then he lost those more on the center, let's put it that way. And that's because he didn't do what Salvini did, what he does, for example. Because Trump has always been about, and that's, I think it has to do without the US structures as well. It's not like it's all in a vacuum. But it was more about Trump. It wasn't about the Republican Party. Meanwhile, when it comes to Salvini, sure, Salvini is the leader and all. He's like, you vote Salvini, obviously. But the party behind it, it's a lot more important. So you have leaders, especially when it comes to those governing the northern regions. And when a region like Lombardia, for example, that's like quite important. The appeal that just the GDP that just that region makes, it's a lot. I don't know how many. I would imagine it's more than quite a few Eastern member states. So
True.
you can't just.
I think parallels with Modi are very, very, very apt. Modi is a very populist person who uses the social media in India to do exactly what Trump does.
Yes.
And he's made almost the same mistakes, which is very, very telling. I mean, I'm sure that our resident geek, political geek Kiki could tell us more on that. But there's a certain pattern to the methods of the far right in retaining their base, and especially the alt right, I should say, the new right, as it were. There's a lot there, and just like with Trump, you see it now exploding in Modi's face, and the chances of him being re-elected are growing dimmer by the day, as it were. And that's also really interesting to watch because, I mean, again, India is a giant continent. There's vast differences of wealth inequality between the states alone, and you can see that even in the rich states now, the corona crisis is really starting to hit, and also in the capital. I mean, Delhi is absolutely insane right now.
And what you're saying about it being a really big country and really different, right? That makes it even so more important to have someone that actually knows how to do the job, because I think even if you got someone really good at it, it will still be really hard to do it. So when you have even someone this Modi,
when you have competent, or someone who is partisan, it's a different story.
It's already a really hard job. If you do that, you are not even trying to do it at that point. Honestly, that's just a downhill slope there.
Exactly. It's not nice for them, to be honest. But I say we could compare Modi to Trump, but when you compare, you can't really compare India to any other country because it's so dense. Well, maybe China in the amount of languages available.
Yes and no, because the thing is, even if India has lots of issues and it's not like the most liberal and super hyper democratic country in the world, it's still like the biggest democracy in the world.
Yeah.
And it's a federation, while China doesn't really have that issue. In China, you either are un-Chinese or you are genocided. There's no middle ground.
You're either one or you're worth nothing.
So it's a lot easier to do what China does. That's like if there's an
I mean,
issue.
it's all the COVID response as well. You know, I mean, China just locked down a few cities. You know, in a few days. That would be impossible in a democracy.
And well, they did.
I mean, in 4 hours,
They
it's
used.
just not.
You remember when they used drones and stuff to control people, and then you know what happens
Yeah.
there. It's not simply, for example, if me or you, we do something that's against the rules. So sure, we are going to get fined as something,
Yeah.
and you obviously have the decency of like do not want to do stuff that makes the public health go badly. So obviously you do it because you want to as well, but it's not like if for example you do something that you shouldn't do, you're not going to get a drone recording you and giving you a lower
No.
score, therefore you can't afford to pay your own house and you're going to get homeless. Like, you know, that's a bit of a different scale of things.
Yeah,
there.
I don't know. I mean, I've seen drones go around England's beaches and tell people to go back, but you know,
Yeah, but
and
there's-
that's being broadcast on the news, you know, and then you think to yourself, okay, now you're using the same kind of, you know, the same kind of techniques. Even though there's no credit score, you know, you are broadcasting these people on the news, you know, so everyone will know them.
Yeah,
you know,
but
or everyone that will, you know, but it's not as invasive. Definitely not as invasive as what China does.
Yeah,
And India, man, there's no, you know, sorry, but you know, there's places that you know wouldn't even have seen the drug. at the moment.
India,
So,
that's one
right.
of the issues there. India it's really diverse. There's places that are really secluded. There's places that are more packed with people, like in cities. Like each place has its own issues, and honestly, I don't even know how you deal with that. Like other than get all the vaccines there are and just to them, and hope that not too many people die until you are done. Like I don't think there's too much you can do honestly, which is why it's even sad that we have someone like Modi that can't really even do the job right. So he makes something bad even worse, which is not the best.
Yeah. I think you know. I mean, now that COVAX is starting to step in India, and you know, there's things like they've gotten the oxygen supply a little bit more under control. It's starting to turn, but you know, I mean, if you look at the stats, you know, it's amazing. You know, it's far beyond what happened in the United States or Brazil. And
But Brazil was one of the really bad ones as well.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have a Brazilian variant for nothing. You know, I mean that does come from that. You know, it mutates because there's so many people to mutate in, and you see that now in India as well. You know, there's an Indian variant all of a sudden.
Yes.
And you know, because and we've had to close down. You know, the whole of Europe is closing down airspace too.
Not like it worked. It was ineffective because I know that it's already in Italy, so that means it's probably in other European countries. But
once you discover it, you know.
It seems like at least Pfizer, they said its CEO said that it's effective against the Indian variant, but what they found out is that the second dose isn't enough. There's going to be a third one needed, but that's going to be after 9 to 12 months, so it's not going to be an issue by now. But I don't know, I think we might have to get vaccinated again, like next year.
Yeah, well, I think it'll be a yearly thing at some point. You know?
Yeah, I don't know if I think what might happen, it might be like a yearly thing for a few years. Maybe if we all get the vaccine at some point, the virus might just die because it can't go to anyone else.
True.
But it might even just go
before, exactly. You know, we've managed to eradicate diseases before. You know, like polio.
Yes.
You know, smallpox. It has taken a while, you know, because you want to reach the most remote places on Earth to make it completely disappear. But yeah, there is a more than zero chance that we will be able to get it under control, at least in the West. You know, that's
The thing
because of our health.
there is at least the effort to, at least from our side, to get those vaccines to even like in Africa, in places where they would not easily get. Like at least we kind of try. We have like the von der Leyen had that fund raise, and I think we might be able. I think we are doing quite well when it comes to international cooperation, all things considered.
Yeah. Very true, very true. I think, you know, I mean, not to blow our own horn, I think the European Union is actually doing much better than people imagined. I mean, we're on target for vaccinations at the moment, which is nice. By September, everyone at least have their first dose in the whole of Europe.
I mean,
if not,
it was quite obvious that was going to happen. It's the EU.
Yeah, we are the best. Let's be honest, you know, especially the Eurozone. Eurozone countries are
Eurozone best zone.
Yeah, Eurozone best zone. You know, there's no other words for it. It's you know it's nice to see. It's nice to see that, you know, here it's going well, but when you look around the world, you know, there are places like Brazil, like Italy. Well, to be honest, the whole of the South America is suffering greatly. That do not have this control over their bureaucratic institutions that they should.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm really hopeful that this will bring in major changes in Italy as it did in the United States. You know, I mean, Trump was a one-term president, which is very rare, simply because of his response to COVID. And
yes.
Hopefully we will see the same thing happen in India, where you get a more serious attitude towards democracy and towards the bureaucratic institutions that protect it, which will in turn give us more chance of getting a trade deal with them, which is nice.
Yeah.
You know? You know, it's all about the money, guys. It's all about the money.
To be fair, I do hope that for India, because it's not there right now at all. But when it comes to the future, you would hope, like, considering the state of the world and China, you would want India to be our close ally in the future. Like a liberal India, which is a close ally to the EU, that would not be bad, would it? And would be quite a force, because sure, India has its issues, but I think we could work quite well together, and even just to, like, we can use India as our new China, so we do there our labor instead of here. Like
exactly.
That's stuff that can be done, you know.
Reap the benefits of European, avarice and.
They get infrastructure. We get new customers. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and they get the machinery, and we get the products.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is how the global economy with China works. So why not? I think it would be a good move. And you can also see, you know, with China being in the ascendancy in the Far East, that India is starting to get mighty nervous because one of China's biggest allies in the region is Pakistan. And it's not going well between those two. It hasn't ever been going well between those two. So, you know, they're also looking for new allies. Of course, there's nearby ones. That's Japan, the real China, and South Korea, and of course Australia, which is
yes,
really big.
but thinking
in the cloud that
none of those are superpowers.
None of those are superpowers, and definitely not economic superpowers. And you know, the number one economic superpower on the planet is the European Union. So you know, India, get your kit out. You know, we need you, and you need us. Get in there. You know.
Speaking of international cooperation, Let's talk about the way we cooperate with Russia.
Oh, oh, such good cooperation,
So, as some of you might know, Russia sanctioned some European officials, among which there's our president of the European Parliament, Sassoli, which I think it's quite a big deal. Because
think so too.
usually, when it comes to sanctions, and it's never the top dogs, right? It's usually
Exactly, yeah.
you try to send a signal. It's mostly politics when it comes to sanctions. It's not like they have that much of, like, for example, Sassoli not being able to go to Russia. He doesn't care. I'm quite sure. It's not like
He doesn't
it's.
drink vodka. We know this, It's,
It's not like it's going to hinder European efforts. It's not like he said that there is an issue. There is a reason why he said that Sassoli can go there and not von der Leyen or Macron, for example, right?
yeah.
Like, it's obviously a political game, but still, I think he is a lot more important than Russia gives him credit for, maybe. And it's quite a strong political message, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But I think after the so just to recap, I mean, what happened in the past few weeks is that the Czech Republic found out or released investigation reports that the Russians were responsible for detonating a munitions depot in the Czech Republic, which is obviously not a good idea because one, it's a NATO ally, and two, it's a European Union member. So it's a definitely right in our turf. And this happened in 2014 and killed 2 people. Now, the Czech Republic then evicted a number of Russian diplomats, and it's been basically a tit for tat thing going on. First between the Czech Republic and Russia, then more states started evicting Russian diplomats for this. So it's an ongoing kind of political diplomatic crisis, which is kind of unfurling here, and this is the latest step in it. So the sanctioning of Sassoli and, like I said in the voice chat, the VP of the Commission, it's a big step, and we will see the repercussions of this. This is not over yet, I think.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
This, yesterday as well, von der Leyen released a joint statement with of her, Michel, our president of the Commission, and Sassoli, that basically said that Russia is not playing ball, and this is not on. So there will be further steps that will be taken here. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens in the coming weeks there.
Most likely nothing, but
hopefully nothing too major, but it's definitely an ongoing situation. So and seeing how in the past few weeks we've had Ukraine, we've had Navalny, and now this. They're not making the best of friends right now, to be honest.
So let's go conspiracy time. I think what's
Yeah,
happening here is Jean-Claude Juncker,
Yeah.
since now is out of the public eye, with Donald Tusk.
Yeah.
Now they are a bit outside of the public eye. They went to Russia. They told Putin to become aggressive. So now we have a reason to spend more on defense, which is why we are getting a European defense fund. And this is how we do segues, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Because this week we got what is it? 8 billion, 7.9 billion euros for the European Defence Fund. Now that's not a lot of money. That's like to the EU. That's like dropping a quarter, on the street and going, oh well.
But
I
we all
just
know
lost-
how Europe starts stuff, right? It's like, oh, it's just a small thing, don't worry. And after a few years, oh, I guess we have an army now.
it's a major global institution now. How could this have happened?
Yeah,
You know,
we
so that's
didn't
definitely
we didn't do it on purpose. It just happened, you know. Don't worry, guys.
yeah, just happened, guys. You know, it's bureaucracy. It just grows.
Yeah.
You know, and not only that, but you know, the thing is that again, Europe likes to work in small units. So we have national defense, we have NATO, and we've got the European Union, which has the European Defense Agency and now the European Defense Fund. So you know there's a lot of money going into defense, and I think people often mistake the amount of how much the arms industry actually grows and how much money is invested in it in Europe, because you know there's a lot going on here, and between things like PESCO, which is oh god, I've forgotten the acronym now.
Permanent.
Yeah, permanent structured cooperation. That's it.
Yes.
PESCO, yes, which is attempting to make like a cross-continent industry at scale. So you know, the bigger your industry is, the cheaper your products are. And since the European Union has a lot of industry, which is not tied, they're trying to tie all this together. And that's also something the European Defence Fund is going to be investing in small startups, in you know, and tying them together with member states. So and there's a lot going on that people don't know about, and it's really interesting to kind of talk about it that way. Definitely.
Yeah, it's when it comes to, I guess, the end goal of having a European army. We have lots of small pieces, and each one it's almost like a puzzle. So each one gets stuck to another, and one by one it starts to get bigger and bigger until you eventually somehow have an army. For example, when you were talking about PESCO and how it's about having an economy of scale when it comes to defense. So having, for example, I don't know, like even something stupid like having every kind of tank in the EU use the same kind of bolt, so you make just one kind of bolt instead of 28. Or just have one kind of tank and everyone do that. At some point, it's going to start, as I said, like something to like one kind of bolt. And then you say, okay, we're using pretty much all, the base parts are all the same around the EU, might as well just make the same tank. Then you go, okay, might as well just have the same everything else. At some point you say, what's the difference between the Italian army and the German army if we use the same stuff? So might as well call it the EU army.
That's already happening under NATO, to be honest. You know, I mean, NATO has standards. You know, for it doesn't have the industrial standards, but it does have the operational standards. And
some
operational standards
industrial standards as well, at least when it comes to ammunitions, right? I think, as far as I know, in theory, every NATO weapon uses the same kind of ammo, so you should be able to exchange ammo between NATO allies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's been the way since I think the start of NATO, to be honest. So that's something that they baked in at the time. Yeah, I think it's the 762 NATO caliber, and they also have different calibers. So there's the 556, but these are all NATO standards. You know, otherwise you'd have a plethora of these. You know, you'd have all kinds of different ones, and I think when NATO was started, they already saw that we needed those industrial standards. So that's why they made the minimum ones. But there's so many other standards, you know, like you said, the bolts for a tank, you know, not only is it cheaper to make them in bulk if everyone uses the same bolts, but, you know, the tools to undo the bolt will also have to be standardized because of that.
Yeah, especially when it comes to maintenance, you know. And that's something
exactly.
I mean, I would imagine tanks don't break down as much as they used to in World War II, but you're still not going to need to do maintenance on tanks, planes, and stuff. So if you have just one kind of machinery or whatever to do the maintenance for every plane instead of having 20 kind which is why we have the Eurofighter, we already have done some steps. It's not like we are starting from zero, which is why
No, exactly. I mean,
it's what you said earlier as well. It's small step by small step. We did the small steps earlier. Now we are saying we already have mostly the same planes, kinda. Not anymore because we're going to get newer ones, but still, we mostly have few versions. It's not 28 versions of planes. So it goes from 28 to, I don't know, 5 at some point maybe. Then it goes from 5 to 2 and then to 1. For example, with tanks, sure, there's quite a few, but most of Europe starts like there's the German ones, and Germany and France want to make a new one, and I would imagine most of the countries are going to just buy that one because why would you even start to make a new one?
I mean, the competition between the American and the European defense sectors is also increasing at the moment, which is a good thing. I mean, the Netherlands, for example, doesn't have any Eurofighters, but is looking, into or was looking into them as a replacement for the F-16s. Now we went off F-35, but that doesn't mean that the European defense industry at scale doesn't mean that we'll all be using the same stuff, but that there will be minimum standards for things like electronic warfare, and that will reflect on how the manufacturers on both sides of the ocean build their planes. So what we'll be seeing, I think, is that the European political choices being made will reflect more and more in what happens in America, for example. And that will be really interesting to watch as well. How much of this effect will be, will happen in the U.S. in arms industry. Now, it used to be, small countries on their own buying things compared to the U.S. Buying things from their own industry. But now you can see, because we're starting to do things like, defense appropriation, cross-border or pan-EU defense cooperation better, that balance is changing. And I think that's really important to kind of keep an eye on because, the arms industry is important. It's one of the core businesses which we need to protect our continent. So
I think
from evil Putin,
Yes. I think
we don't have many other enemies that can touch us. So
a good example, I think it's Boeing versus Airbus. For example, we started Airbus not even that long ago, to be honest. And when we started doing that, Boeing was the only guy in the business, pretty much. Like if you needed a plane, you were going to get that one. And now, to be honest, I don't know if the actual numbers. I do know that they're pretty much up there. I think lately Airbus was doing better off, and Airbus and Boeing has had some issues lately, like planes falling out of the sky, which it's not the best for them. But
no, exactly. And of course, the delays, for example, that there are now with the rocket productions. There's a lot going on at Boeing, which is not healthy. So that gives Airbus some chance.
I think that's mostly because Boeing it's having issues of its own. But the thing is that it went from the only guy in the world to being worse than the European counterpart because that's what you do. But it is, I think, a good example of how, especially I think when it comes to the defense force, it's possible. We already have the expertise. It's not like the German tanks are the worst tanks in the world or anything, right? Like people already love them. Or
We've had this discussion in 1940s. In the 1940s we had a very good European-wide discussion about which weapon systems were the best.
yes, we did.
So we do know our stuff, and I think as a continent that's been at war for, let's say, 4 millennia, something like that. We know our warfare very, very well. We do it very well.
Yeah, we already have the expertise to honestly have even a better, bigger defense industry than the US does. Although the only difference might be, I don't know, on one end, we might be saying stuff like we don't sell to Saudi Arabia. On the other hand, we already do sell, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if the EU...
I mean, the EU doesn't sell to Saudi Arabia. The member states
Yes.
sell to Saudi Arabia. Let's make that distinction, right?
Yes,
Because,
but I don't think we are going to stop doing it in the future, to be honest.
No,
Although, I don't know,
you have
it
to- you
depends.
have to-
We have to see, because maybe we sell to India and we don't need to sell to Saudi Arabia. I don't know.
Well, as we know, I mean, when it comes to arms embargoes, the European Union does have quite a bit of power. There's a website that you can go to, which is the sanctionsmap.eu, which will show you a map of the world and where we are sanctioning people, basically. And so there are sanctions in place, but the thing is that member states, and this has always been the case in the European Union, member states have more power in the EU than the European Union structure does itself. So member states can always find a way around this and sell weapons to China or to other places that you think to yourself, should we? No, really? So it's definitely something that we'll have to work on. I think it's really interesting that if the European Union starts to kind of mold further into this, having its own foreign policy, that maybe that balance will change. Selling weapons to Venezuela because your arms industry already has that connection, while the EU is sanctioning it. Does that happen? Yes, it does. And it's time to stop that. Basically, that's what I think. So let's have a look.
Yeah, and
What else we?
like in theory, Italy can't sell to them. Like in theory, we don't sell to them, but somehow you always end up finding Italian weapons in Yemen. So
Exactly.
there's quite a few ways to still do stuff. Even
I think there was a movie about that. What was that movie again with the arms dealer?
I'm not sure which one you're talking about. But what I was thinking about right now was we might be good at still selling stuff where we shouldn't. The same way as the Dutch are good at paying not taxes even if they should. So everyone is good in the EU. That's not following the
everyone.
rules.
But again, if you want to do that, if you want to stop that, the only way to do it is to get to turn the eurozone into a real, a monetary beast, instead of the hybrid that it is now between the member states and the.
Although
and the
I
rest.
don't want the Dutch in it unless they eat. And this is important. You can't just get rid of him. You have to eat the king and become a republic.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. He's still very much loved here. So at least the institution is. So.
Is he
Too
chubby?
bad,
Is he like a bit chubby? Not
he's a rich person, so yes.
So
He's slightly chubby.
I think you would make some good dishes out of him, probably. You should try that.
I think no. We've already eaten our prime minister. And,
but the prime minister is like it's that
not gonna happen.
that's
You know
the
what-
entree,
what really Yeah, but seriously, you know what would really help is that if Italy just chose to use our king as theirs, yeah, that would really send a good message to the EU.
My
You
king
know, 'cause
is
we can
only
also
Mario
go
Draghi.
halves and we can be the king. Yeah, that's maybe something.
I only follow my president Mattarella and no one else. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's
Uh,
basically prime president for life, though. So you know, how is he different from a king?
he's different because he's a Chad. Meanwhile, the king is. Have you seen
No,
Mattarella? Like the
our king is
man.
such a Chad. You can't get past this, man. Our king is super Chad.
I mean, if Mattarella, if Mattarella and your king are in the same room, your king would be like, "Sorry, Your Highness, I can't even be in the same country as you." That's what
Oh,
would happen, and you know
no,
it.
no.
So that
Mozzarella would be kissing his boots, you know, and the king would be like, "Oh yeah, this happens to me every day."
have you
Yeah,
seen Mattarella? The man is like I don't know.
yeah. Okay, you know, in a cage fight, I'm not sure who would win, but you know, we're not talking about a cage fight.
No, I don't think Mattarella would win. He's quite old.
Oh come on, man, that death stare of his, you know,
Yeah,
it's at least a few points.
that's quite
Yeah, yeah.
strong.
He's got that stare, hasn't he? I don't know. You know, for the people listening, if you've ever seen Mattarella, you know, when he looks directly at the camera, you know, you lose a few years of your life. It's amazing. You know, it's like he sucks the life out of you. So
He gets directly to your soul, and he has
yeah,
that style. Like
yeah.
you can't
He has
just.
the Italian style, true.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's
Hey, but
quite the thing.
while we're talking about Italy, what's this with Italian terrorists everywhere this week? Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because I heard something about French and Italian governments not agreeing too much about terrorism. What's this going on?
Yeah, it might come as a surprise. I know it's something that never happens, but Italy and France don't agree on something. So, so what happened around the 70s and the 80s in Italy? There was something that I guess it would be the years of lead. I'm not sure if that's if I should translate it or not. But anyways, it's when Italy had some far left terrorism, so communists and stuff. Back then, France had Mitterrand as its president, and he was a socialist. The I guess PR way of saying it, like what the message was technically, we don't think Italy is going to be fair against these people, so we don't agree.
We can't extradite.
We don't exactly. You can't extradite them because we don't think the trial was fair. Because Italy isn't capable of having a fair trial against these people, but actually it was quite obviously about the left wanting the left there. And by the way, it's not like it was quite a few people, because when it comes to the far left terrorism, you have I guess smaller stuff and stuff quite like murders and all of that stuff as well. So there's quite a range there. And in theory, back then, it was supposed to be that people that committed at least blood crimes, which means murder or whatever, were exempt from this protection from France, but actually didn't. And they have been in France since then. What happened is Mario Draghi and his government managed to get France to agree on 10 people. Out of them, seven have been arrested, captured. 3 are, I guess, I don't know where they are. Probably in some cave or something.
Yeah.
Probably
making YouTube videos.
Yes, making YouTube videos, because that's what you do, apparently.
exactly.
And I think it's quite. You have to see it from the Italian side. Most people, at least the younger people, don't care too much because we haven't lived it. So it's not like on one hand, sure, like you obviously want terrorists to get, you know, to go to jail because that's how it's supposed to be. But
Yeah, exactly. It's,
it's not like we know the names that much. It's not like we have. It's not, for example, if you tell me about the terrorist attack in France these past
yeah.
years,
From then,
those are
it's well known.
yes, those for
Yeah.
me are a lot more important. For example, even if it's not in Italy but it's in France, the thing is it's so much so long ago. But that's me. When it comes to the people
Yeah.
that actually have the power in this country, which is older people,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
people as old as you and up, they do
Yeah.
remember it and they are quite pleased with that. Actually, in theory, we hope that France might get a bit soft and go towards helping us because I think they have like a few thousands of people in there. Like it's not like just
Yeah.
some. And Italy asked for 200, and out of those we got a list of 10. So it's not like it's that great.
It's all of them, but there's at least movement going on. I mean, I think the on the French side, there's been a change in the way that they view terrorism since the Bataclan assault and the assault against Charlie Hebdo.
No, I don't think
Those
so.
have really terrorism in general is bad, you know, and I think that
Yes,
does change.
but the thing is, they didn't do anything since then. They just did
Yeah.
something now. They, to be technically correct, it was one person earlier when it was Conte, the prime minister, and now these 10 people. The thing is, your idea, yeah, it would make sense what you're saying, but it's not like they did anything from when they got their Charlie Hebdo. Like it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's not like they did something right away, and it's not like Italy stopped asking for that since then. So
Yeah.
it's what we have here. It's on one hand, I think Mario Draghi kind of has some leeway, and you know it's different when he's speaking compared to anyone else in the world. So you got you have to
Yeah.
listen to him to some degree. But instead of like we could, if this was an Italian show, we would talk about what these people have done in Italy and what if it's as bad as something. Yes, it is. But some people can, especially on the far left, can manage to still say that they are not terrorists because it's the far left and they like it pretty much. Because
Yeah. Of course, there will always be those people. You know, that's the thing.
So
I mean, kind of, you know, it kind of reminds me of you know, the German Rote Armee faction. You know, that was also, you know, active in the 70s in Germany. Very left wing, you know, pro communism group that did a lot of bombings and. But the difference here, of course, is that, you know, you've got France and Italy with its borders there, and I mean France does the same thing for the Catalan separatists. You know, they usually escape to France before that. France and Spain came to some kind of a resolution on that. You know,
and to be fair, the thing is, when it comes to those times, it is quite murky. Even if like the crimes are quite obvious, but everything that happened back then was quite murky.
Motivations are you know,
Well,
are
I'm not.
definitely difficult to understand in our context right now.
I don't
because-
mean just that. It was when it comes to there was the CIA involved.
Yeah,
That was
exactly.
a thing because you have to remember it was in the height of the
Yeah,
Cold War, and Italy was pretty much the biggest country with a quite big communist part in it, and
Yeah.
communism was quite big in Italy back then. So you had there are allegations of the state doing stuff that are not constitutional,
It's not
and
kosher, yeah.
uh, there's quite. The thing is that's why I said it's so murky. There are so many stories and conspiracy theories that some are not that much of a conspiracy theory because it makes sense. It's when it comes to some of those, it's different from the what you would imagine the CIA doing in South America, but you know how it's really complicated to
Yeah,
know
exactly. There was
how it really is.
definitely horseplay going on at the time, you know.
When it comes to Italy back then, there is the difference that it's not one of those South American countries, which is literally almost not a country. So,
Yeah.
as in, there's not really any institution going on back there. It wasn't. Italy, even if it was quite young, it kind of had strong-ish institutions, but you still had stuff going on.
Yeah, of course. You know, the political parties in themselves also had, infiltrations, and you saw this.
As I said earlier, there
there's
was
a few
the
countries.
Cold War, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. But that also played it. But you know, there's a few countries in Europe which have always been, you know, the bed of spying and espionage, and that's, you know, Italy, that's the Netherlands, Paris, you know, in not France but Paris, and London. You know, those places have always been, you know, relatively flooded with spies and, you know, different interests and stuff like that. And
for
especially during the
example,
Cold War.
our Secret Service,
Terrible.
it's so secret that you guys don't even know how they're called. That's how secret they are. Which is true.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but do you know though? That's the difference.
Yes, but
Yes.
that's because I'm part of Secret Cabal,
Yeah,
which is
we knew it, guys. We knew it. You know, he's an infiltrant from the Italian Secret Service. Now we know.
yes. I mean, I was under the impression that was obvious here. But the thing is, I don't think when it comes, I think what's more important to discuss here is the European perspective, which is France and Italy, two of the founding members of the EU, not being able to have terrorist exchange between them. Like, I think that's quite. If we are
That's
talking
quite
about
a dangerous thing.
the thing is, if you look at it that way, we are quite far from having a united Europe.
Yeah, true. I mean, another thing is, you know, I mean, obviously not as dangerous as terrorism is that the Dutch government or the Dutch prosecutors now refuse to extradite people to Poland because they are afraid, because of the judicial system changes that have happened there, that they won't be treated fairly. And it's the same thing. And another example is, of course, the Catalonian leaders who have been in Belgium for a while, and
Not anymore.
now starting. Yeah, not anymore. But now they're the idea was that they objected to having those because the judicial system in Spain was considered deficient in treating with people that were accused of I think it was treason. You know, it was actually treason accusations.
Yes.
And that's. So on one side I understand it, and on the other side, and I'm glad that this is fought out in the courts, but it shouldn't be a political issue. It shouldn't, that's the thing, I think, and if it remains a political issue on the far left, to support these people, that's a dangerous thing, really, whether it be for something small like a fraud, or something a blood crime, like you said, murder, mayhem, those kind of things. So I think it's really important to kind of keep an eye on that, and it'll be interesting to see if this has any repercussions as well, because once it's in the news, it tends to get its own momentum.
And there is something to say as well, which I don't know if how much I give it credit to, but it is something of note. the idea that France might not want to, I guess, quote unquote, like bow to Italy, as in, because it is.
It's a matter of face. It's a matter of face, is what you're saying.
Yes, to some degree, yes, because it's France and they are French, which you know. But to be a bit more serious,
It's
you
like
know,
Italians are totally Italian, you know. There's just no, you know, the amount, the reasons Italian looks so good is because they get so much exercise waving their hands around.
yeah, obviously.
We all know this, you know. It's,
But on a more serious note, I do think there's probably some amount of that, of losing face as a factor, because France wants to be an empire, so it's not the greatest when they have to comply with Italy. On the other hand, I don't know that it's like, I do think it probably is a bit of a factor, but I don't think it's too much of it. Like, I don't think it has that much weight. At least I hope so. I would hope that they don't take such big decisions on we lose face and that's it. I would hope more from France. And the thing is, as I was saying earlier, leaving aside if this is going to change stuff and maybe we're going to get all of them, what's really interesting on my side is how you have two founding members, two countries which I think most people would agree in Europe they have mostly good and reliable, fair judicial systems. Like, sure, every country has its own issues. It's not like anyone is perfect in Europe, but you would probably think that if someone is convicted of something in France, it was probably fair. And same thing if it's happening in Italy or in the Netherlands or in Germany. You would think, you would take it as, if, for example, someone is convicted in the Netherlands, I would consider it as fair as if it happened in Italy.
Yeah.
If it was, as it's the same thing, pretty much, no? So well, it's not.
Our system is better, but no, it's that's just because we're Dutch. But, yeah, it's. I mean, come on, you know, you guys, you know, there's way too much shabbiness going on in Italian courts. So you can't say that.
But it's not. Well, when it comes to Italian courts, they're just slower because they tend to be more, I guess, thorough to some degree, which gets there's a component of just bureaucracy, which that can obviously that you can do stuff there, but when it comes to the other things, it's. For example, if you have a new piece of evidence, in some countries, since there is a new piece of evidence, you might get, I don't know, 3 more months of investigation time. In some countries, it might be 1 more month. In some, it might be 1 week. And that's just a matter of what's better. Is it better to have, I don't know, 6 months so you know it's a thorough research? Or is it better to have it 1 month so it's thorough enough but it's quicker? Or is it better to have it, I don't know, 1 week and have it done in one month? You have the whole thing done. I think that's mostly. It's not about. To be honest, I would trust more the slower one. Like, it will take a lot to get to the final stage, but you would think that the slower one is going to take.
Plenty of time for evidence to be, new evidence to be discovered, is what you're saying.
Sometimes it might not be necessary, but you would, like, if there's something to be found, you would trust it's more easily found in 6 months than in 1 week. I think we all agree there.
Yeah, I think so.
It's going to take longer, but it's going to be thorough. So that's something it's mostly political at that point. Like, what's the amount of time that should be given? How much, based on what? And that's something that every country has to decide by itself. It's not.
Yeah, every country has to make its own decisions on that. I mean,
as long as you're not Japan, which is awful, but that's a different. That's a different discussion.
But they're not in the EU, so they don't matter. It's very simple. Until they join the EU, we don't care.
Yes.
It's simple. You don't go there because they're not in the EU. That's you can't get arrested there.
It is a scary place because if you get arrested, you get convicted. There's no. They have something like a 99% conviction rate. So.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's not because they roll guilty. So it's not because they have the best police in the world. It's because they just don't care if you're guilty or not. You're just getting in the jail. And just to make it better, they have the death penalty as well because obviously they.
Yeah. Because how can you not chop off heads in Japan? It's just not done. This is Japan we're talking about. But similarly, I mean, Europe, the difference between all our judicial systems is really interesting as well because, all of our judicial systems in some way come from our heritage. And,
and the best one is Italian one because we have the best heritage, but sure, go on.
Sorry, but,
I mean,
that's not how it works.
Italy is based on... Italy is based on bureaucracy and Latin Roman stuff. Yours is based on people living in trees because that's how it used to be there, and saying it's right or wrong based on who has the bigger hands and the bigger muscles. That's the difference of.
Of course, it's much better than it's much faster. Let's say,
it is faster, but I don't know. If I do agree. It is faster. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I am a bit. I don't know if it's. I guess I shouldn't be too surprised, but I'm a bit disappointed in you that you don't like the more bureaucratic version of something. And you can't get more bureaucratic than Italy, so I don't know. It's a bit.
See, the thing about bureaucracy is that it costs money, and as a Dutch person, I have an aversion to things that cost money. So less bureaucracy is better. So in the end, Italy is too bureaucratic. I mean, this is why our finance minister was so harsh on Italy when the crisis finally hit. And the whole scandal was, how could he say that? And he said, we're not giving you any money.
Italy is not too bureaucratic. It's not bureaucratic enough. We should add more.
Yeah. Or the Netherlands needs to up its bureaucracy a little bit. That could also be the case.
I mean, if you want to be if you want to be in the EU,
really seen as so.
I mean, it is like the founding pillar of the EU. So if you don't agree with it, you should go out of it. Honestly.
Yeah, that's true. We do need some bureaucracy. As long as it's not ours, we're fine with it. So, maybe Italy kind of balances that out for us. So that in the EU there's just enough bureaucracy right now.
Yes,
that's probably it.
We will make enough for you as well. We make the bureaucracy, you make the money. So we have both again.
We make the money, you eat the money. It's part of the European cycle of life.
It's how it should be.
Figured it out. Oh yes. By the way, I mean this is a segue into a subject that's close to my heart at least. Is that 17 years ago today is when Cyprus, the Czech Republic, Estonia, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Malta, Poland, Slovakia, and Slovenia joined the EU in one big go.
So pretty much everyone.
Today, history. The big Eastern expansion happened, and it's so much more bureaucracy for us. Oh, I love it.
You would have people in this Discord server that still don't agree with that decision. So many years later.
I think I read a very interesting paper by Kiki, one of his essays, on this exact expansion being one of the reasons for Brexit. Because of the perceived unfairness, or not unfairness, the perceived difference in wealth distribution between the countries made migration a big issue. And
So what you're trying to say that we should thank the Poles for getting the Brits out of our way?
yeah, exactly. Actually, this is something we should be thanking them for. Poland pushed the United Kingdom to harakiri for our collective souls.
Yes.
The European Union would not exist as it does today, I think, without Brexit. So thank you very much, Poland. You helped very much. Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia too.
Don't forget the smaller guys. They helped. Slovenia, for example.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Slovenia definitely. And Slovakia as well. So many Slovaks in London at the moment, or at least there were so many. They're all back home now because it's nice here.
Yes.
There's work.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is kind of great because those countries have joined. We also have a lot more diverse European opinions now, and I think that also really matters for us. We get a lot of input from countries that have been through a lot of communism, which had problems with communism, and have a very strong desire to remain themselves after these events.
As it should be. To be honest,
it
is something that you don't think often, but it's something that the EU as a whole, we have both a hate for fascism and communism, which is the best thing that you might want from something, Hate the worst stuff.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like we had the discussion earlier, there are strong far left elements in many countries in the EU.
Yes, but at least we have the east of Europe. But we have Eastern European countries that at least can balance that out instead of having nothing.
Exactly. Now we do. So thank you again, Poland. I'm not thanking Hungary. Sorry, I can't do it. Not with your current minister. No, sorry. He has to go. He's getting old and fat. You need a new old and fat guy.
Yes. It has to be fat though, otherwise it doesn't work well.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, look at our prime minister. He's thin and sporty, and everyone hates him.
Yes.
So he's you need someone that's loved.
Like Mario Draghi.
Like Mario Draghi, or we might actually be getting a new prime minister soon as well, because ours is very damaged. So I'm hoping for a woman prime minister in the Netherlands. That would be nice.
I don't know. Do we have someone that we can?
It's non-zero. Let's put it like that.
We should send someone from Italy, because you are not able to make a government. Meanwhile, we are.
Yeah, but then you'd have to send Mario Draghi, and he can't be in two places.
No, first of all,
we're not taking context.
How can you be sure of it? If he is a god, he might be able to. You don't know. Do you have any proof that he can't?
No, I do not.
Give me proof that he can't. See, if you can't prove that he can't, then you can't prove that he can't. And that's exactly. About it.
Mario Draghi can be in two places at once, people. This is news,
It's called a Skype call.
Yeah. Running a country by Skype. I can see that happening.
I mean, that's pretty much how they're doing right now. So.
Oh, there's a question from Logical Method. Why hasn't Greece left the Euro debate? Well, I mean, Greece is now
because they like the Euro now. That's why.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
they're getting so much money, especially from the COVID fund. Greece is hard hit.
And
Italy is hard hit
because
Spain,
the Greek people, like some Greek people, might hate the Euro, but they hate something else more. The idea of not eating.
Yeah.
Because if they do leave the Euro right now, they would not have food to eat. So,
not only that, but then they'd have to choose between Turkey and the EU. which one do you want to have take over your waters? You know?
Yes.
Would you rather have Frontex or the Turkish Navy? You know?
Do you like the
And I
Italian
think,
Navy to be there? And the
yeah,
French one?
exactly. You know, yeah. Well, after yeah, that's true. Well, the 2008 crisis wasn't the big one. The 2012 was when the Greek crisis happened. So the thing is that you know, it's we can say that Greece is definitely. As far as I know, there are still anti-EU elements in Greece, but they are so fractured and so broken, basically, by what happened in 2012. That was it, you know.
Yeah, it's
So,
the
there you
thing
go.
is,
I hope that answers your question. You know, they love us, they really do.
we don't know all the ins and outs of that country
Yeah.
because they don't know how to write. They don't use Latin, which
They use some alphabet from you know, from way back, and it's just not compatible.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
an inferior alphabet, so we can't understand everything they say. They're quite barbarians, but leaving that
Yeah,
aside,
guys. There's a reason that this Eurocast is on a Saturday night. You know, let's be honest. This is perfect content. You know, for a Saturday night. Do not listen to this on Monday morning. Is my suggestion. Because, you know, you'll be outraged. But interestingly enough, I mean, if you look at Greece's position within the EU, they've been doing a lot of work with Frontex. They've been doing a lot of work in the European defense sector. Procuring warships from France is one thing. You know, there's a lot going on, which, I mean, we often
they
look
like
at
their
the
ships,
EU
you
as
know, for some reason.
don't forget that the EU is made up out of member states, and they communicate and they trade on a daily basis. And I think, you know, because that happens, we often lose sight of, you know, what the EU actually is, which is, you know, the collection of all of this together. You know, so when we're talking, for example, again about the European Defence Fund only getting 8 billion over 7.9 billion over 7 years, that doesn't seem like a lot of money, you know, $1 billion a year for the EU. But on the other hand, you know, the member states have their own thing going. NATO has their own thing going. You know, there are so many aspects to the EU that are invisible, as it were. So it's very easy to discount what you know, what's actually going on the ground versus, you know, what we see in the news, for example. So that would be my comment on that, basically. So yeah.
And you have to remember the Brits, you know, they sacrificed themselves, so no one wants to do anything now. I want to
Never ending Brexit. It's
to be honest,
basically never ending Brexit.
you know what? I think mostly in the British, well, English more than British, English media, there is this. I don't know if it's like a misunderstanding or simply they can't be bothered to go a bit deeper. They see, for example, far right. At least in the past, they were seeing far-right parties gaining ground, and they been against the EU or the Euro and stuff, but not fully grasping how it's a bit more complex than that. Like, for example, Italy managed to have Movimento 5 Stelle and Lega both in power, and Italy
Exactly.
kept putting sanctions on Russia, kept being in the EU, in the Euro. It's not like much changed. We didn't do much back then. Italy wasn't much of a big voice. It wasn't doing shit, but that's a different story. But it's not like it was out of the EU. And that's because people don't realize that our countries are quite complex. We have institutions. Something as big as leaving the EU would require a lot of moving stuff, which are easily blocked at every point. So it's really, really hard to get something that big to happen. it's not
Yeah, exactly.
a banana republic here.
Most of the countries which were founding members definitely have a very strong connection, bureaucratic connection to the European Union, and I think also culturally they're more accepting towards what the European Union stands for because it was done on our terms, as it were.
Yes. Yeah,
Whereas in Britain,
we made
it's
it,
always been
so it's not like we
but in
joined
Britain
it.
it's always been kept at a hand's distance, not too close. There's what I've also noticed, for example, in Britain, is that there's still a very strong war rhetoric. The Second World War is still very open, and the idea of the French French being untrustworthy and the Italians being untrustworthy. There's always been this element in British society which doesn't trust.
And they have that imperial aspect of it as well, like thinking back then we were an empire, we could do everything ourselves. Meanwhile, even if it's not true anymore, obviously, but it's something that someone like in England, it has been always there. It makes sense, and someone might think that's there. But if you live in northern Italy, you are literally working with Germany every day. So it's not
Exactly.
or with France and whatever. It's so much harder to have.
You go shopping in another country because it's cheaper. I mean, let's be honest.
It's so much ingrained with us. That's something that people, at least foreign media, doesn't quite grasp. How much the EU is. It's part of our country. It's not like, for example, especially when it comes to the founding six, it's not like we are in the EU, but we are the EU. It's literally you can't really get out by now. What would Germany be outside of the EU? How does that even look like? It's every part of Germany works and is designed as something that is part of the EU. It's literally even even our electric grids. Even, for example, Italy gets electricity from France, from their nuclear power plants. We buy electricity from them. So what? We go outside of the EU and pay more for electricity, and then people. That's the thing. For example, when it comes to the Brits, you couldn't really tell them too much, even if they are going to be affected a lot. It's more big stuff. It's more like big picture things, right? It's less. I mean, there are some obvious stuff, like literally, I don't know which item it was, like a few weeks ago, something that they couldn't sell anymore because no one was buying it because the tariffs were too high. So, like, there's stuff like that, like losing 98% of something in sales. Like, there is that. It's not like it's great there. But when it comes to Italy, it's so much ingrained with the rest of Europe. It's we don't really have any more borders in that sense anymore. It's been so long. You have to remember that Italy finished World War II in and got in the EU in 10 years or whatever. It's not.
Yeah.
It's almost never. The Italian Republic has almost never not been in the EU. It has overwhelmingly been in the EU.
In that way. Exactly. Yeah.
Especially when it comes to Italy and Germany. Like, we have been in the EU forever.
Well,
We don't know what it's not been in the EU like.
Another thing is the idea of imperialism. I think in Italy and in France, those things have not just a positive connotation but also a negative connotation. I think for example,
But Italy has never really had an empire so it's not like we can.
You did some.
I mean, Italy had some fun adventures in Africa, which African people fondly remember, I'm sure, but it's not like Italy has ever. It's not like Italy ever made money from its empire. That's for sure. I don't think Italy has ever made any money from that.
There's not really a good good connection there.
Yeah.
But France, for example, does. France has a massive history
Well,
where
they still
it's
have an
not
empire,
really.
so
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's the sun never sets on France, basically.
it doesn't.
You know, with their Pacific islands and the Caribbean. But the thing is that, for example, when you look at the Netherlands and Britain, are I think the only two countries in Europe which see their empire in mostly a positive light. And the difference between us, of course, and the Brits is that we have Germany next door, and Germany, rules our money. Let's be honest. If Germany coughs, then the Netherlands gets a cold. It's very simple. So there's always this duality going on, and I think that's why in my country you see a lot more Euroscepticism arise, because empire, and we could have done it alone, and you see the exact same arguments as in England, basically. However, but there's always Germany next door. We have to be nice to them, because otherwise we're going to be up shit creek.
Otherwise, what happens, right?
Yeah.
I personally will call Germany and tell them to get your bikes again. So
No, not my bike. I've just had it repaired, man. You can't do this to me.
yeah, I mean, you can either behave or you can have Germany
Yeah,
come and get your bike.
No, this is terrible, people. Telling a Dutchman that his bike's going to get stolen again.
Yeah.
Oh, how dare you?
Yes.
This hurts. This hurts on a fundamental level.
That's how we keep you in line.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is how the EU works, people. I mean, some of you may not be from Europe, but in Europe we talk shit about our friends, and that's just the way it is, So,
Yes. As you should.
As we should. Let's see, right? We have a few more subjects left.
You know what? I think we should, since it's we have 20 minutes or so, or a bit more, a bit less, doesn't matter. I think we could end it with a bit of a dark subject, because it's not uplifting, but I think it's important to talk about this. So, Jewish people have been a bit of an hard time lately here. This topic starts from something that happened in France, and to be honest, that topic itself has so many other issues and stuff that we talk about. But let's start from the beginning here. In France, a few years ago, there has been a murder. 27-year-old Islamic man. I don't know what. I don't know the ethnicity, or I don't really know too much. I can't remember, but it doesn't really matter too much. He was under the influence of weed, and he was having a psychotic moment.
Episode.
Yes.
Exactly.
And he committed murder by first he was punching and stuff, and then throwing this woman from the window. So not the greatest. We don't know if which one killed her. At least I don't know. I don't know if we found out later, but anyway, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And when he did it, he was going with the usual "Allah great," and I got rid of the demons. So the usual.
Exactly.
There was no questions about it. It was done It was an anti-Semitic thing.
Yeah, attack purely because they were Jewish. Exactly.
Yes. What happened is the French court decided that this man was not guilty, because he was not able to. He was not in his right mind, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Influence and
I don't know
had a
if
psychotic break.
yeah, there's. I'm not sure what the actual legal term would be in English, but anyways, when you are not capable of thinking, like you're not capable because of a psychotic incident, and therefore, instead of going to jail, he's going to a psychiatric institute. It's not like he's going. in the
He's
streets.
not
Obviously.
being released into society. He's just going to a different. Instead of going for a jail, this will be a treatment facility where he'll never basically get out. That's the idea.
The thing is, he was the drug in question was weed, but you never know. It might even be that this particular person has a violent reaction to weed. It can happen. It's not like drugs work the same on everyone. The thing is, the French system, and to some degree it's the same everywhere, but it says that if you do something when you are not fully able to understand what you are doing, it's not your fault, and you should not be guilty of murder, but just you go in a psychiatric facility.
Exactly.
The thing is, the way that that law is intended, mostly it's the idea is that if you have some condition and you do something, it's not really your fault because you don't even know what you're doing. But if what you do is get drunk or get any kind of drugs, and then you do stuff, sure, you might not know what you're doing in that moment, but you kind of decided earlier that you would do something like that. So
yeah, exactly. It's not it's still your responsibility, as it were. I mean,
yes,
especially with the blood crimes, the crimes that murder, assault, robbery with a deadly weapon, all those things.
Unfortunately,
you can't really...
the French court decided that to have a more literal understanding of the law, and therefore this person is just getting treatment. And to be honest, it's a bit more complicated than that, because that's something I will go over to in a second, because the thing is. He's getting in a psychiatric facility, and if after 2 or 3 years, whatever it is, after how many visits he has had, if he's going there, it means that it might be that the drugs might have made things worse, but he probably already had the issues to begin with, because
exactly.
It's not like
anti-Semitism doesn't come from nowhere. This is something that must have been in his mind before.
No, I don't need the anti-Semitism. I mean, actually, like psychiatric issues that needed to be solved to begin with. Like, if he is going to a psychiatric facility, it means he has some issues that he didn't know of. So there's that. They obviously, as anything in life, everything is a lot more complex than one would like. So
exactly,
how much is the fault of the drugs? How much is he how much is he responsible? Because if he is going to a psychiatric ward, it means that he probably was not in his right mind, and maybe it wasn't his fault, or maybe it was. And that's you have a whole discussion about mental health there, which is severely lacking in Europe, because I think it's nowhere it's part of the public service, or even if it is, sometimes there's some small things, but it's not anywhere near what it should be. So you have that as a big discussion, which I think we should leave for next time, because otherwise we would never end here.
This will be all night. Otherwise, this will be an all-nighter. When we go into the mental health system of the EU, because there's so much to talk about. But I mean, the thing that gets to me, about the subject is that and I've said it before, that this increases the divisions in Europe, and I think that's very bad. However, I still think that Europe is one of the safest place for Jewish people and for people of all religions to practice their faith.
Well, not as safe as Israel.
That said, there are definitely divisions that that are between religious groups which we should not tolerate. For example, the anti-Semitism of the Muslim world. Should not be allowed. I mean, let's say it like this: you can be against Israel, but you can't be against the Jews, because the Jews are, a diaspora of people which have a unique culture, and you can't, that would be to be against them would be to be against the culture, and you can't judge people by the culture. So it's a very interesting big discussion, which we should definitely have next time.
There's
we'll put this on the list, because this kind of also ties into Genocide Week, which we were supposed to have last week, with the Uyghur genocide, and Myanmar going on, and there's a lot to discuss there. So I think that might be a good subject for next week. But we'll discuss that.
I think we might go deeper in that next week. Meanwhile, I think we can end the. When it comes to the judicial part of this story, Macron has announced that they're going to change that law, and they are already doing that in the lower house. So when it comes to that law in particular, the idea of it is going to be written in how it's actually written. So it's going to work the way people think that it should work. So that's not too much of an issue. The issue is, and this is something that I wasn't, I remember reading it, but I'm not sure if, I think I saw it in the past, but it still was quite a thing, because when this story came up, it is linked to how hard it is to be Jewish, especially in France. To be honest, it's probably easier if you are Jewish where I live. To be completely honest, it is different because some cultures don't bode well together, and especially when it comes to those that are most the extreme parts of some culture.
Yeah. And you always have that. That will always be the rubbing area between the two.
The thing is,
Jews and the Muslims, or the Muslims and the Christians. There will always be that different, and especially because the religions are so similar.
And it's not like France does anything. The thing is, France, what it does at most is separate them to some degree, because they kinda everyone goes on his own side, and they don't they don't mix. And so you either are somewhere there's no other. If you're Jew, you live somewhere where there's no Muslim, and that's not because every Muslim is going to be a danger to you. Obviously, the amount of people that are actually that extreme are a relative minority, and even there, to be honest, when it comes to Jewish people, the amount of people that would actually harm them might be a minority, but the people that hate them might be a majority, to be honest, because there's the whole Palestine and Israel thing, so it's a lot complex.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many issues. There's geopolitical issues going on. There's religious issues going on. There's placement inside the society going on, and there's also the idea of the local diasporas, entrenching themselves in society or in their geographical area, in their towns in different areas, and that meant not mixing very well. On the other side, you do have a lot of intercultural communication at more kind of the upper level of society, as it were, where when you go to university, it's much more diverse than it was. There's a lot of
university has always been more diverse than the rest, even 1,000 years ago, because people that go there are more easily are those that can afford to travel and stuff, because at the end of the day, it is even if it's free in some places, it's still you are still deciding to not work, and not everyone can afford that. So and it's not that easy everywhere. So it's always going to be something that it's always going to be easier for people in university to be more diverse. Let's put it that way. But
exactly. But also when you're talking about students looking for work, and working within Jewish people working within Muslim businesses, and Muslim people working within Jewish businesses, it does happen in Europe, and that at least is a hopeful thing. So I'm hoping that we can discuss this more next week.
I think there is the
in-depth.
Yes, we will definitely go more in depth. I do think probably, though to be honest, I don't have the actual data, so we should probably check this. But I would imagine that for Jewish people it's a lot easier to go get along with European Muslims, as in
Yeah.
compared to those that have come from Middle Eastern
Yeah.
countries or African ones,
Exactly.
because
Where this, where the idea of hating another culture is more ingrained, as it were, than here. I mean, we should also then touch on on World War II and what that's done to our collective consciousness. But that's for next week.
wait, speaking of
people,
which, this is something that I want to leave people with for next week.
Yeah.
This is something that it's quite sad, and it's something that I don't think should have happened. So there's a woman that survived the Holocaust and was killed a few years ago by a Muslim man with a knife attack, and which we have, I think, as a society, even if it was in France, as far as I remember, but it's not a French issue here. It's a European one, and I think we failed as a society if that can happen.
Yeah.
And it's not just and it's not the usual easy, just not like you can have the easy answers which are not answers, like let's close everything or let's not do anything, but those never really work.
Exactly.
The truth is it's really complex, and it's so much far-reaching. You have to change so many things, and that's why I say we failed as a society, because we should do so many different things differently.
Exactly. Well, on that happy note, people. Well, thanks very much for listening.
Yes.
We yes, this
Really
is how we
happy.
like to end this down note.
You can find
so,
us here next week around
Exactly.
same time, around
Every
10-ish.
Yeah. And
on Twitch,
as you know,
Discord, and we have our VODs both on Twitch and on our YouTube channel. So if you
Exactly.
want to check out the episodes and you can't be here live, you can check them out there.
Exactly. Easy,
So
anyway, thanks very much.
that's it. Bye bye.
Bye bye.